Quiet, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, what the guests say, croeso, welcome to the Dylan Thomas Birthplace at 5 Cwmdonkin Drive. And for the inaugural one-act playwriting competition, coordinated by the Dylan Thomas Society and the Thomas Hardy Society. And there were 15 entries that were submitted to this particular competition. The 3 plays have been shortlisted, will be performed for you this evening as rehearsed readings. They're one-act plays, and then at the end of this 45 minutes to 50-minute session, we will be voting upon the winner. Now, our first play, actually, I'm going to introduce everybody first. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, can I introduce you to your actors this evening? They are Fionn. James. Simone. And my name's Adrian, and I'll be reading stage directions in the second of the plays. Just to let you know, our first play this evening is called A Home from Home, and Tom will be reading Thomas Hardy, and Tom will be reading Thomas Hardy throughout the evening, and James will be reading Dylan Thomas, and James will be reading Dylan Thomas throughout the evening. And for Home from Home, the stage directions will be read by Fionn. So, over to you.
A Home from Home, a play. Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey. We hear the organ playing softly and then fading before the action begins. 2 men stand a few yards apart. There is a floral wreath on the floor between them, and we hear voices and footsteps retreating.
They're off to the pub. Lucky bastards. Who were they? My fan club. What a fan club. Enthusiasts. Every November they come. Though why they leave the bloody flowers beats me. A packet of Woodbine would be more like it.
I have enthusiasts as well, you know. My fan club. And they bring flowers too in January. There's even a society.
That's who they were. My society. They look frozen. Poor sods. Probably the Wheat Chief.
What?
The pub. One of my favourites and not too far.
You're a Londoner then.
How dare you?
Oh, no more was I. Hated the place. Snob.
Pseudo-intellectual.
Smug.
Pretentious.
They called me a country bumpkin behind my back.
That's how they judge you. It's the accent.
I'm proud of my accent.
So am I.
I can't quite place it.
Welsh, my ba.
Oh, yes, I hear just a hint now.
What's your name?
Thomas.
I'm a Thomas too.
Oh, so this is a bit of a home from home for us.
A home from home for Thomases. Return journey.
Return journey? I don't think that happens. Not beyond this corner anyway. Are you a believer?
Profound. Though what I believe in, I'm not so sure. Not unlike...
We have that in common too. I was very devout once, but it left me. So no return journey for us then.
My return journey was just a piece I wrote.
A novel?
More a slither of autobiography. I turned my hand at anything that might make me a few bob. But poetry was what mattered. Oh, and I was quite proud of a play.
Oh, now I love the theatre. Poured my heart into it, but it's forgotten me. It's my novels they mostly remember now. Still, we're in very august company here, aren't we? Shakespeare and Dryden, Keats and Shelley.
And a few forgettables. Who the hell was Thomas Campbell?
Pope, Milton, Spencer, Wordsworth.
Oh, that old nanny goat. And who's this Larkin?
Oh, a newcomer.
Look at his dates. They didn't hang around with him. It took nearly 30 years to get me in here, and I wouldn't have made it then if some American president hadn't noticed my shocking omission.
What do you miss most?
Beer.
Oh.
No. Caitlin, of course.
Your wife?
Yes. You had a wife too? One for the daytime and one for the night. Joking.
Oh, yeah. My first wife died, and my second was, well, there are nearly 4 years between us.
I miss the kids, of course.
We were never blessed.
Mixed blessing. And you miss?
Well, apart from my pipe, ooh, the countryside, the sea, the heath, trees, birds, ancient buildings. Oh, the smell of the past.
Bugs and owls and apple trees and green, especially green.
Green, yes. Partly real, partly dream country. Dorset was my heaven. What was your favourite place?
Llareggub.
Oh, really? I've never been there.
Neither have I. But I love it all the same. It's the capital of love.
Where is it? What does it mean?
It's just under Milkwood, and it means bugger all, but backwards.
Oh. And are there nice folk thereabouts?
I'm not so sure about nice, flawed, funny, ridiculous, certainly, but somehow irresistible.
Irresistible. Like fate. Well, it was fate that preoccupied me. What fate does to good, innocent people that always moved me, motivated me. I love the people of my county, especially the poor country folk. I had to write about their hard lives, their bitter lives.
That's why we need bitter beer, to forget that. I wish we could follow them to the pub. I do enjoy talking to my friend, but it would be so much nicer in a pub. What's your Christian name, by the way?
Thomas.
Thomas Thomas. Are you sure you're not Welsh too?
No, Hardy. Thomas Hardy.
But you're... No, he was...
Ancient, yes. But now I can choose to be any age I want, and this is me and my pride, just coming up to 60.
You left it a bit late.
I just published my first volume of poems, the fruits of 30 years' work. Never wrote another novel after that, never wanted to. No more sad lives for me, just my poetry.
So I am found on Impeng Beacon, or on Will's Neck to the west, or else on homely Bullbarrow, or little Pilsden's crest, where men have never cared to haunt, nor women have walked with me, and ghosts then keep their distance, and I know some liberty.
You memorized it. I'm flattered.
Wessex Heights. When I was a boy, I always wanted to write a poem that good about Wales. And I did, of course.
Good, right?
I'm not sure when that would have been. Probably around 19.
Too many of us die young. It's almost a rite of passage for a poet to die before your time. But I had to wait till I was 87. And then they buried me twice. Ashes here, heart in Stinsforth Church. You?
A little place in West Wales called Llareggub.
I died of old age.
I died of drink. Didn't even make it to 40. But I bet my funeral was a lot more fun than either of yours.
Fun is never a word I've associated with funerals.
Well, odd then. They put me in an open coffin, all dressed up. I remember someone bending over my corpse and saying, "You'll never be seen dead in that time." And then they all just got completely pissed, ended up pouring pints all over each other.
Yours does sound more fun. Mine was a really solemn trip down that very long aisle over there. 10 pallbearers I had, even though I'm only 5 foot and an inch tall. And all they did was to carry my ashes. The Prime Minister, J.M. Barrie, Kipling, Houseman, Shaw, and all for a godless man like me.
I remember my father announcing that you died. He was my English teacher at Swansea Grammar, so I would have been around 14. Of course, I thought you'd been dead for years. But he stood in front of the class and he told us that a great man of literature had left us. We just finished reading Jude the Obscure.
Jude the Obscene, some called it. My last novel, I stopped after that. I couldn't bear the vitriol, the furore. I'm told a bishop even burnt his copy. You'd have thought I'd murdered those little children in the story myself.
Oh, when we got to that bit and the suicide note, done because we are too many. Big Gwynhowes, a brute of a boy, and the hardest nut in the class, burst into tears. He never lived that down. We called him Big Gwenny after that.
I'm sure your father must have been very proud of you.
I fear I was a bitter disappointment to him as a scholar. But we shared a love of words. Endless words. He thought you a great poet. So do I. The darkling thrush, it makes me think. Beamy cliff makes me sad. The ruined maid makes me smile. But as a gloomy, solipsistic teenager, my favorite was To Life.
Go life with the sad, seared face. I weary of seeing thee, and thy draggled cloak, and thy hobbling pace, and thy too forced pleasantry. I know what thou wouldst tell of death, time, destiny. I have known it long, and know too well what it all means for me.
Damn. I made gramophone records of some of your work, but I could never make it sound as real as that.
At least you sound like a poet. I never did.
Acting. I acted everything. Being a poet, being a genius, a husband, a father. I even acted being a drunk sometimes.
But not all the time. There's surely some truth there too. You can't avoid it if you're a poet.
You think that? Very well. Here's my truth then, for the both of us. And death shall have no dominion. Dead men naked, they shall be one with a man in the wind and the west moon. When their bones are picked clean and the clean bones gone, they shall have stars at elbow and foot. Though they go mad, they shall be sane. Though they sink through the sea, they shall rise again. Though lovers be lost, love shall not, and death shall have no dominion.
Though lovers be lost, love shall not. Such a shame we never met in life. Might we have been friends, I wonder?
We're friends here now, aren't we?
You're right, we are. That'll have to be enough. But I'd like to hear more.
Are you sure? I never need much encouragement.
Of course. You've done me the honor to learn my verse by heart, and, well, you've got the whole of eternity here, so what else should we do? Go on. Something you're truly proud of.
Very well. It's a play for voices. So close your eyes. To begin at the beginning. It is spring, moonless night in the small town. Stars and Bible black.
The end.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our second entry this evening is called Shadows in a Storm. And again, as before, Tom will be Thomas Hardy and James will be Dylan Thomas. Theon will play Don Monroe, the station master, and Simone will play Frances Flanagan, who's a barmaid in the railway station, and I shall read the stage directions for everyone. Shadows in a Storm. In November 1952, Dylan Thomas was returning from a reading tour of America and is travelling by train from London Paddington to Swansea, changing at Bristol to see his father, who is gravely ill. At the same time, Thomas Hardy is returning from an extended break in Exeter, where he's been staying with his sister Mary, a keen archaeologist who's been involved in a project there for some time. He's travelling back to London by train, changing at Bristol. However, due to the seasonal weather and a delay unloading stone for the repairs to the Clifton suspension bridge, he misses his connection at Bristol. So the scene is set as both men arrive at Bristol station on a wild winter's night with 15 minutes on their hands, 15 minutes to kill and 15 minutes to change history. Opening scene. The waiting room is dimly lit by wall lamps in need of a good dusting. But a good fire is going in the hearth, and above it on the wall a large Great Western Railway clock, marking time, one loud tick at a time. There's a bar at one end of the waiting room, with one weary traveller sitting at the bar. His attire is tired-looking and creased and damp, both from the length of his journey and the weather. He's drinking a whiskey, and smoking a damp, rolled-up cigarette, and is leaning on the bar, engaged in conversation with the blonde barmaid, who's wearing a long black dress and is busying herself wiping down the bar as they chat. The wind and rain can be clearly heard outside, giving the room an added coziness. The door to the platforms opens with a rush of cold, damp air, and a tall, well-dressed gentleman in a heavy winter's coat enters, visibly soaked through, and, by his expression, not best pleased about the situation. Even his moustache is dripping with rain. Dylan draws on his cigarette as he turns and looks to the door. Francis looks up to see the gentleman still in the doorway.
Good heavens, what a night. Ah, what's this then? Another weary traveller, no doubt abandoned here too.
Well, indeed, sir, you speak plainly and the truth. My train was delayed and I've missed my connection. However, the station master assures me that I'll be on my way in 20 minutes or so. I quite expect the or so myself.
Come in. You're half in and half out. Join us a while. A drink, sir. I can almost recommend the whiskey.
Hey, cheeky, that's best blend.
Ah, yes, fair maid. But blended what?
Will I just take that bottle out your way then?
Would you deprive a man the company of an old friend?
I suppose not. You, sir, can I fetch you something? Maybe a whiskey while we still have some?
Oh, tea. Do you have tea? A cup will be most welcome.
Tea, we've always tea. This used to be called Winnie's Tea Rooms back in the day. Give me 2 ticks. Milk and sugar, is it?
Oh, both please in equal measure.
Careful now, that's hot.
Oh, thank you kindly. I need this more than you could know. You, sir, I do believe are...
Yes, I do believe I am. And Thomas, what brings you out on such a night to this wilderness, to this lonely, dry island we found refuge in?
Well, of all the places to finally meet.
You 2 gentlemen know each other then?
No, never met.
No, no.
It's just, you seem familiar, if you don't mind me saying so.
Indeed, I do not mind one bit, fair maid. I didn't catch your name.
Francis. Fran.
Well, Francis. Fran. May I have the pleasure of introducing myself? I'm Dylan Thomas of Wales. And my fellow traveller here is none other than Mr. Thomas Hardy, playwright and poet.
I should thank you, Francis.
Yes, a pleasure it certainly is. You see, now we're all familiar.
Well, it's not often I'm speechless. You can ask my fellow that. But really, are you both who you claim to be, or are you just pulling my leg? Come on, really, Dylan Thomas and Thomas Hardy in my little waiting room in Bristol. Last I heard you'd gone to America, never to return.
I am in America, so to speak. I'm returning home because my dad is not well. Not well at all.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Dylan. I hope his health improves swiftly.
I'm sorry too. I'll say a prayer for him later.
Oh, he's a teacher, isn't he? Your father, I mean.
Yes, he was. Retired now, this long time. Not been well for a while. Come to think of it, I can't remember him being well for a long time now.
So you really are Dylan Thomas, and you really are Thomas Hardy? Then surely not.
Surely so, fair maiden. Actually, I should call you the woman in black.
Oh, I knew it, yes. The woman in black. Of course, I didn't breathe.
I know your story, sir. I happen to know the woman in black. I may not be as mysterious, but in truth, I like the references. But you've never met before.
No, it seems we've been ships passing in the night, so to speak.
The door flies open to the platform, and a gush of cold air swirls in, along with Don Munro, the station master.
Evening all, evening Fran. It's getting worse out there, I swear it. At least I can't get much wetter. Even the pea in my whistle is soggy now. I don't suppose there's any of that pie left, Fran.
Of course there is. Don't I always save some leftovers for you?
Oh, you're an angel, Fran, so you are. I'm so hungry now, I could eat it.
The bell on the platform rings as Francis appears with a plate on top, held with a bar towel. Don looks at his pocket watch and tucks and huffs.
It's the mail train, and there's 2 bags out there to go.
Don, before you run off again, you'll never guess who these two gents are. Never, no, never.
Fran, if I had to guess, I'd say that young man at the bar would be Mr. Dylan Thomas, good Lord. And though I can hardly say it, this gentleman here seems to be Thomas Hardy. Bless my soul. Gents, it's a pleasure to meet you both.
The bell on the platform rings again.
That damn bell. Do you know I hear that in my sleep? Fran, will you pop the pie back in the oven? I have to go and sort the mail out for the train coming in. Gents, it's truly a pleasure.
I should have known you'd know them, Don. Always get your head in some book snooked in by the fire there.
Oh, Mary, my wife, always said if you have a book, you'll always have a friend. My little Robert loves to read. That and bloody fire engines. I fell over one this morning in the hallway.
Oh, how old is little Robbie now?
Oh, 5 now, getting big, so he is.
Sorry, just before you go, the London train?
Oh, she's made up a bit of time, sir. About 10 minutes on platform 2, just over the footbridge. Next bell that rings should be her on the way in. Okay, sir.
Don goes through the door onto the platform. A train's whistle can be heard getting closer, and with a sound like thunder and screeching steel on steel, she pulls up just outside the windows of the waiting room. Don's voice can be heard shouting and doors slamming.
Francis, is it? Did you mention food? Is there anything available now at this late hour?
Well, I've some scraps for Don, but I've cold lamb sandwiches, made them myself. The bread too, my mother's recipe. My sister Anne makes it too, but mine's better.
Did you say cold lamb sandwiches? Oh, please bring me some of them.
Yes, Fran, they sound perfect.
So, Tom, do you mind if I call you Tom?
Not at all.
So, what brings you here in the dead of night, in the middle of nowhere?
You know, I've been visiting my sister, Mary in Exeter. She's rented a lovely house on the coast and is involved in some sort of big dig for artifacts. They've found quite a few nice pieces. The Royal Museum has been involved too.
Did you ever venture over the border?
Yes, we did. Just last year, we spent some time in the Gower Peninsula near Three Cliffs, is it?
Ah, so I suppose you visited So Silly Bay then?
You have a singular wit, sir. Yes, we did visit Rose Silly Bay. Quite beautiful, I have to say. Long stretch of golden sands for miles, and the Rose Head too.
Did you stay in the Gateway lodging house?
No, we stayed in the Three Cliffs Lodge in Penard. The food was wonderful.
They're both chefs, the nurses.
Ah, what did I walk into now? Chefs and nurses.
Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Nurse, they are indeed both chefs. My wife got a few recipes off them. One for marsh lamb and a delightful stew, and the breakfast was a cutlery feast, lava bread included, like a London hotel, the menu.
They've been there a while and they have a great reputation. Fran, these sandwiches are wonderful. My first real taste of home. I thank you.
Yes, really lovely.
So, Fran, where do you hail from? Not these parts, I'm certain.
Era, I'm from the boglands of Ireland.
I should have known. My wife, Caitlin, is from Ireland. She ran away from home to join the circus and joined me instead.
So the same thing then, by the looks of it.
The circus? What?
Well, a traveling dance group. So the next best thing.
So America. How did you find it?
Well, the pilot seemed to know the way. I don't think it was his first trip. No, it's a strange place. Full of people, but lonely at the same time.
Lonely? Well, I'd imagine you out with your friends and colleagues and so forth.
Last week, after a wonderful book reading, we all went to the White Horse Tavern, my local haunt. We had food not as good as these sandwiches, Fran, not even close, and many whiskies. One day I shall drink 18 whiskies straight, and that will probably be the end of me. I digress. I went home to my lodging house and fell to my bed and stared out of the window at the clear night and fat white moon. And I wished all my wishes to be home in Cumdonkin Drive, looking at my small bedroom window at the starless, moonless night, my heater burning at my ankles, and my family all asleep in their beds.
That's the homesickness, that is. I get that sometimes, thinking about my family and the bogs and the freedom, but especially my mum. I think I miss her the most. Can I pinch one of those?
Yes, of course.
Don pops his head in.
Here she is now, sir.
Don grabs a suitcase.
This way then, sir.
Thomas Hardy leaves and the door closes.
Well, Fran, or should I say, the woman in black?
I think that's about it. My time may be up too.
Don's voice can be heard over the din of doors slamming and steam hissing.
All aboard!
His whistle blows and the heavy train moves off slowly into the darkness of night. A bell rings on the platform.
That's you, I think. Don said 1:45. It's just that now.
I don't suppose there's another cold lamb sandwich, is there?
Let me look quickly. You don't really have time.
It's for my pocket.
For the onward journey.
That's the last one. You're a lucky man.
And you, fair maiden, are a godsend. A pleasure, Fran. For the whiskey, for the food, but mostly for your good company. Your fella's a lucky guy.
Stop it now, you. I see that look in your eye.
Well then, this really is goodbye. No stop.
Safe home. Hope your dad's okay. Bye. Safe journey.
Don can be heard outside shouting.
The boat train, platform 1, the boat train.
The door closes and Dylan goes. A train rumbles in like thunder and the metal screeches as it comes to a halt and doors open and slam shut. And in just a short time, Don's blowing his whistle and shouts,
All aboard!
Then slowly the silence returns. A few minutes later, Don walks in, wetter than ever.
Look at me. Just look at me. You'd think I'd been swimming in the River Tower.
Don.
Oh, Juju, that was so nice, Fran. Seriously.
Yeah. I'm kind of shocked, to be honest. Was it really them, do you think, Don?
Well, I can't say for sure, but I'd sure like to say so. I'd like to think that Dylan Thomas and Thomas Hardy met here at our little station in our little world on this wild winter's night, and we helped them on their way.
Ah, look, Dylan's left his woodbine tin with his little rolly cigarettes.
Oh, just leave it up on the back bar there, Fran, in case he passes this way again.
Yeah, maybe he will, Don. I'd like that, so but
What's that smell, Fran? Don't say the pie is still in the oven.
Oh, holy Lord, the pie!
The end. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Our final entry this evening is called Thomas and Thomas, nearly live at the BBC. The cast again will be, Dylan will be played by James again, Thomas Hardy will be played by Tom. Beryl, who's an assistant to Dylan at the BBC, will be played by Fionn. And the BBC announcer and also reading the stage directions will be Simone.
Thomas and Thomas, nearly live at the BBC, a short play. The early months of 1948, late afternoon. We are in a cramped rehearsal studio at the BBC. The setting is meant to be minimalistic. Upstage is in complete darkness. Downstage is a lectern, a table on which is a phonograph player that would be old even in 1948, as well as some papers. Here and there, out of the way of the action, are more lecterns and some chairs, some folded. There might even be a musical instrument or two in its case. Dylan Thomas is at the lectern, a lit cigarette in one hand. He is 34, but looks older. His body growing heavy and his eyes sunken. He is concentrating on a paper on the lectern and reciting.
After the first death, there is no other. After the first death, there is no other. Beryl! Beryl!
Beryl enters right, cradling an ancient record album in a grimy brown sleeve, a little breathless. She is young and appreciating the new chances for a woman at the Beeb, but she is aware of many people asking her, when are you going to find a man?
Sorry, dear. It wasn't easy to find, and I don't think anyone has been in that cupboard since the Blitz.
Is that it?
Beryl hands him the album. He frowns at it, inspects the sleeve.
I think that's it. 'Twas the only thing in there marked 1925, and that might read Stravinsky there. Still, why this recording? I'd think there'd be a lot of Stravinskys.
Not like this one. This is a live broadcast from 1925. I didn't think it had been recorded. But once I heard the rumours that it had, I knew I must hear it again. It's just what I need for my reading.
Oh, are you going to put music in your recital?
Dylan turns on the phonograph player, lays the record down on the platter.
Not quite. I'm trying to capture something. This was on the wireless when I was 11 years old. I remember it quite clearly. My father was leaning forward, his eyes fixed on the box, and I swear he was trembling.
Oh, he admired the music, did he?
He hated it, called it pretentious bollocks. He roared against Stravinsky like mad King Lear on the heath. It's that rage I'm trying to catch, that anger born of a society trying to accept something without complaint. I want to recall my father's anger and put that into my reading. Well, off with you then.
Oh, yes, the artist at work. Don't forget the recording's at 8.
Oh, Beryl. Later? Tonight?
Oh, no me's with Nan's visiting.
Tomorrow, then.
Perhaps.
Exit Beryl. Dylan, his cigarette having been smoked, lights another one and then lays the arm of the record player down on the spinning record. The album hisses and pops. Through the fuzz, we hear the BBC chimes. The next voices we hear are tinny and muffled a bit by the noises of the old record album. This is the BBC. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special programme. Tonight we are pleased to be celebrating the 85th birthday of Mr. Thomas Hardy OM, who we have the privilege to join at his home of Nextgate in Dorchester.
Bloody clerks!
Mr. Hardy, a happy birthday to you, sir, and how do you do?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you, and I thank you for your kind wishes. It's kind of a rare pleasure for me to be speaking on the wireless.
Indeed, sir. I understand you don't even have your own wireless box here at Nextgate.
No, I don't see what the purpose is. Simply a modern toy. People will soon tire of it.
Fat lot you know, Tommy.
Mr. Hardy, you are still mostly known for your novels, but for 3 decades you've dedicated yourself to poetry. May I ask, why the change?
I've always been a poet. It's only been since the success of Tess that I've had the means to be one. Beyond that, I feel I have a duty that poetry best allows me to express, a duty to expose the miseries and sorrows of life and urge reconciliation with them.
Balderdash!
The voices become clearer. Upstage, the lights begin to go up, revealing a seated figure, who of course is Thomas Hardy. Sir, what might you say to someone who may find that view dark and pessimistic, perhaps even, pardon me, as balderdash?
Oh, young woman, you don't reach 85 years without realizing that endless fighting is useless. It's far better to reconcile yourself to the doom that is yours.
If you weren't dead, I'd show you how wrong you are.
The lights upstage now fully reveal Hardy. He is a small man, nearly bald, and with a drooping white moustache. He leans forward on a walking stick between his knees.
Why should my being dead stop you? Tell me how wrong I am.
You're a defeatist. That's been apparent from your first poem. What is it? Hap. How arrives it joy lies slain, and why unblooms the best hope ever sown? Each and every one of your lyrics filled with melancholy, self-pitying victims of their own disappointments. Lost loves, lost hopes, lost God. You're really quite depressing, you know that.
Dylan sits down next to Hardy.
And you, sir? That poem you recited is on one of the most ghastly topics imaginable, the death of a child in a fire, and yet you choose to end it on a note of triumph?
It's the triumph over death.
And how do you achieve that, pray tell?
By living your life as a rejection of death, by living it on your own terms.
Is that why you're killing yourself with drink and cigarettes?
And sex. It's quite the way to go, you know. Far better than deteriorating away in a dreary house in Dorchester.
Well, hard deterioration to write hundreds of poems, many quite good. I doubt your Byronic way of living will allow you to write as long as I did, and that dreary house, as you call it, Has offered me what protection I could have from watching a world where 100-year-old traditions gave way to greed, war, and emptiness.
Aha! There he is, the Victorian. We industrialized half the world and colonized the other half, but Darwin took away our God.
You forget, sir, I am only a Victorian novelist. As a poet, I was as modern as you, maybe more so. I saw this age of yours come in, this age of dictatorial madmen and bombs that can annihilate the earth. How can you pretend to triumph against all these?
There's no pretense. I believe it. Just as one must defy death, one must defy this age and its desire to destroy itself. Every one of my poems is on this theme. Fight on, I say. Fight on.
Oh, the fight. You know where the paths of glory lead.
So why did you come here?
You called me.
I was calling Stravinsky, who I believe is still alive. You're a mistake.
Am I? That phonograph record only has music on it. I was never interviewed at Max Gate. Whenever would allow that gear to be set up there, and I'm not sure such a recording was even possible in 1925.
Are you saying you're a hallucination? Perhaps delirium tremens? Or an actual ghost?
Oh, that's too Dickensian. I never knew what awaited me beyond the grave, and I still don't. I don't know what I am or why I'm here. But I'd like to think that I am your inspiration.
Well, you have allowed me to connect with some kind of indignation and outrage that I wanted to feel. Perhaps I should read more of your poems. But I will never surrender to the world, Thomas Hardy.
Then perhaps yours is the voice this world needs, Dylan Thomas. This world that is so in danger of blowing itself to pieces. Perhaps it needs someone to cheer it up. If not, cheer it on. But at some point, though, they'll need to face the worst again. I hear of a young librarian in Hull, a man named of Larkin, who might pay him a visit.
The upstage lights begin to dim. Dylan rises.
A good journey to you, sir.
And a you, sir.
Hardy moves to exit, but the upstage lights black out before we see him leave. Dylan returns to the record player. It has stopped playing and a hissing can be heard as the needle is stuck in a track. He shuts off the machine, removes the record, and looks at it carefully.
Stravinsky, 1925.
He puts the record down, chuckles. He again produces his flask, opens it, and holds it up in a salute.
Fight on.
He takes a strong drink, then returns the flask to his pocket. He returns to the lectern, clears his throat, and recites.
After the first death, there is no other.
Curtain.
Thank you very much. As Alan and Jeff explained earlier, as you leave now for the precisely 15-minute interval, you will be handed voting sheets, and then when we come back, we'll hopefully find out who's won the competition. Thanks ever so much for your attention. Have a good evening. See you in 15 minutes.
Can I just say, diolch yn fawr to thank you very much to the four of you and to Adrian. They started to come together here on Wednesday. Or was it Thursday? Wednesday.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, thank you. And it's been fab to have you to see these works come alive. And diolch yn fawr hefyd I bawb sydd ar Zoom. We haven't forgotten about you. We don't only want to give attention to those in the room.
Diolch yn fawr,
But yeah, diolch yn fawr ar Zoom hefyd. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand out the voting slips for those here. Make a choice. Yeah. It's a tough one. We've been really blessed with 15 entries and really, really blessed with the 3 that we've had at the shortlist. And then when you've made your choice, on the way out, drop them in the donations box, which is against the wall, on the wall of the hall there. Okay.
Should we say favourite number 1, second favourite number 2, third favourite number 3? Is that right?
Yes.
It is right.
Just, what do you want?
That makes it complicated to count.
Just the winner.
You won't know what 1, 2, 3
Or just
means.
the one.
Otherwise it's very
Single transferable vote.
You're outvoted.
Okay, fair enough.
Just one.
Just the one.
Just the
one.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
There we go. If you haven't got, there we go. If we can pass the room and for those on Zoom. It's great to have you out there. Croeso I chi gyd mas mana. And let's crack on because we have a result. We have chosen one winner, again, directed by our public, only one winner. And that winner is play. Pause for dramatic effect. That's why you see it. Play number 1. Play number 1 is written by Gareth Armstrong.
Oh.
Somebody knows it.
Mm.
2 people know it.
Mm.
He has combined the roles of actor, director, and writer throughout his career.
Mm.
He was born in Wales and educated at Bishop Gore Grammar School, formerly Swansea Boys Grammar School, which was Dylan's school, and that is a complete coincidence. That did not influence, I did not know that until now. He started the Swansea Youth Theatre and performed with Swansea Little Theatre, and that again is wonderfully dovetailing. But after sessions with the National Youth Theatre, Gareth performed professionally in theatres countrywide and for the RSC.
Yeah.
Therefore, congratulations to Gareth. Warm congratulations to Gareth.
Yeah.
And Gareth will receive this print of
Yeah. Very good.
Dylan.
And I might say, Alan, that he's actually on Zoom tonight.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
so that you will receive that, Gareth, and a very warm congratulations to you from all of us here and your fellow people. Yeah, we'll give you an applause. And everybody else on Zoom pass on their applause as well. So that was good. That was the inaugural play in the name of both societies.
Yeah.
And I think that worked really well.
Mhm.
And it's good to work with one of the other playwrights here as well, Paul from Ireland via Bridgend.
Indeed.
Oh,
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
there we go. Yeah. So there we go. After that, we move on, but we stay in the theatre. Yesterday morning, you went to the Dylan Thomas Theatre down in the marina in Swansea, most of you, and you had a look at some of the display boards on the walls that reflect Dylan Thomas's life as an actor. Now, it's been touched on over the last 2 days, but not kind of developed in much detail. We're going to do that in a little bit more detail now, because I think I mentioned as well that the fact that Dylan was involved with theatre played a big role in the way that he took poetry out into the performance world, and that he got used to reading and reciting his work and the work of other poets and authors, of course. Dreena, warm welcome to you.
Thank you. The offer out.
No problem. Dreena, just sometimes if you use the phrase tour de force, it can be a bit not sure, but it is really fair and right to call Dreena a tour de force in the Swansea Little Theatre. You a backbone for that. And what we want to do now in conversation is to hear a little bit about the theatre firstly. As I said, they've mostly been there, but then to talk a little bit after that about Dylan's link with the theatre, and then more importantly, your experience of performing Dylan's work,
Mm.
which you have done in many circumstances, in many situations, over many years.
Mm.
Yeah, there we go. And then at the end, we will have a short piece of performance from Dreena, which takes us into a different aspect of Dylan's life to what we've experienced so far. So that's about it for the next. Here we go.
I need to get my piece from that.
Oh, you want to be reunited with
My
your
little
handbag?
yellow handbag, yes, please.
Oh, you are. Always bring it.
Oh, gee.
There
This
we
was
go.
a spontaneous event, wasn't it, Alan? Thank you.
Yeah, it is no.
It is now. Thank you.
Right, well, let's start. I mean, a brief synopsis. The Swansea Little Theatre, so many names to start with.
Yes.
But when did the first group come together and why?
Well, this is purely my background and my investigation into the Swansea Little Theatre. It started off as the Swansea Stage Society in 1924, and we are looking forward to our 100 years next year. Swansea, I think, was a small parochial little town made up of a lot of little villages. Even today, if you ask someone where they come from, they don't say Swansea, they will say Morriston, Sketty, Pontedowe. They're all a little bit closeted. And Swansea was affected quite a bit by the great religious revival that swept through South Wales. And to go to the theatre was to go into the depths of hell. Yes, exactly. It was considered Satan's land because a lot of the good theatre was associated with the music halls at the time. So if you said, I'm going theatre, it's the devil's work. And it was really, really frowned on. But then Swansea became a university town with more liberal thinking, teachers, lecturers, etc. And the Swansea Stage Society was born with the idea of presenting 6 different shows per year for the people of Swansea. There was no online, no National Theatre, you didn't pop up to town to see the latest show, and people had no chance of seeing good theatre except in their town. And they would do 6 different genres. They would do a Shakespeare, a classic, a modern, a comedy. So you did everything from rivals to Shakespeare. And we also gave an opening for fresh Welsh writers, Emlyn Williams, Jack Jones, Mansell Thomas. We were looking at new and very avant-garde European plays, the insect play, this sort of thing. And that developed in 1924, and that was the start of the Swansea Little Theatre. No home, performed in whatever hall we could find at the time. But that was the start in Mumbles in Southend.
That's fascinating. I didn't know any of that. That's really intriguing. Yeah, absolutely. We're more than aware of the Little Theatre for decades, but it's fascinating to know that they were the beginnings. Yeah. So Swansea Little Theatre, it's been known as for so many decades.
Yes.
And my awareness is that it was Swansea Little Theatre in Dylan's day,
Yes.
and it was then based in the Mumbles,
Yes.
not where we were yesterday, or you
No,
were yesterday. So it was that its first settled home then?
It was a rehearsal hall.
Right.
It was a church hall in the South End, and that's where, first of all, Nancy, Dylan's eldest sister, went, and because of her, that he joined. So, but she discovered boys and married life, but he discovered acting. I slightly jump. His daughter, ironically, was our lifelong president, and was very, very visible at so many of our events. And the foreword to her book was, my father discovered his acting ability at Swansea Little Theatre, which set him up for all his future.
Yeah.
So she did admit that as he started young there, and discovered voice projection, characterization. He did have a bit of genius himself anyway, but he could hone his craft there, even though he could be very naughty.
I was just going to say, what kind of actor was he? What kind of contribution did he make to the Little Theatre. So he wasn't there, he was there only for about 2 years, wasn't it?
Only for about 2 years.
But he did it, was it 10 or 11 productions, which
Oh,
is
yes,
quite a
he
lot.
did. Yes, he did. He was
Yeah.
very good. But today you would say that he was an intuitive actor.
Right.
The biggest thing about Dylan was he wasn't disciplined. He would miss rehearsals and go down the local pub. He'd go down to the Antelope or the Mermaid, and they'd say, you know, you need. No, he wouldn't be there. But he'd come on the opening night, and he would do the most superb performance, which made all the actors around him very, very jealous
Of course.
and very annoyed.
Yeah.
But he was what we would call today an intuitive actor.
Yeah.
You know, he was good. He was very, very good. He was also a committed committee member. He did join the committee as to the
I find
forward
that-
planning
Yeah.
of the theatre, which direction it was going to go.
I find that intriguing. To think
Yeah.
of Dylan as a committee man, it's just hard to get my head around, really.
I
must say.
don't say it was like a trade union committee, but the big formal committee would choose the plays for the future year. So I would think he would probably have some sort of input. I don't think he was worried about the drains and things like this, you know. We didn't have a place of our own anyway at that time, but they would choose the plays that they were going to.
Yeah. So he had a creative input
Mm,
into the what plays the theatre played.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And have any stories come down through the ages from Dylan to you as actors these days, or possibly not, because it was a while ago?
Yes, yes. The biggest disappointment, well, not, I can't say disappointment, but a bit of an obstacle. I did say at the beginning, Swansea was quite parochial and very dry and very, anti-fun sort of thing. And Dylan's talent was overshadowed by the number of people, and there must be thousands who all say, I knew Dylan. My grandfather's first cousin, second, sister-in-law, knew Dylan. And everybody said they knew Dylan. And his reputation as a little bit of a hellraiser in Swansea overshadowed his wonderful words.
Yeah.
And people were anti doing Dylan for a while. I had that feeling. We had a great difficulty doing Dylan. Nobody would come, you know.
Yeah, well, that
And then
moves on,
it progressed. It got better. It got better.
that moves on to the next
Mm,
part of
mm.
the conversation, which is not Dylan in the Little Theatre, but the Little Theatre doing Dylan.
Yeah.
When did that start?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us was in the early 60s. There was a lady attached to the Swansea Little Theatre called Ruby Graham. And Ruby did know Dylan, because Ruby was quite a prestigious businesswoman in the area. And we have a copy of the letter Dylan wrote to her asking to delay payment on fripperies and dresses that Caitlin had had from her shop. And we got the letter saying, dear Ruby, can we delay paying it back?
No,
She
there's a
never did.
surprise.
So Ruby did know Dylan, she really did. And she did a big production of Under Milkwood in the main theatre in Swansea, in the Grand Theatre. And at one of the rehearsals, I don't know if they're aware, there's a Swansea artist called Kerry Richards.
Mhm.
And the University Taliesin had the Oriel Kerry Richards at the time. And he came and said, could I sit in the box and do a few sketches of Under Milkwood? And she said, of course you can, Kerry, love. And we have got the 9 prints that Kerry Richards drew. They are copies, because the originals were all sold separately. They're worth thousands. But it's a pencil drawing by Kerry Richards of Under Milkwood characters. And of course, there's a little touch of the Swansea Little Theatre actor who were playing those parts.
Yeah.
And the 9 are together in our building with a limited edition of Death Shall Have No Dominion by Kerry Richards.
Oh, wow.
So there's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
connection between Ruby, between an artist doing Dylan's work, and from the 60s, people started to appreciate Dylan's words rather than the character that he was. Because I think you have to put it apart. You can't say he didn't write well because he liked to drink. You go for the words, and I've always gone, love the words.
Yeah.
Love the words. Absolutely. So
Well,
we've got a connection all these years.
Yeah.
I worked for Ruby, but I didn't know Dylan, but there's that sort of
Yes,
ongoing.
of course, there's the chain, yeah. I mentioned Augustus John in the first session this morning, probably was his famous artist. Well, Kenny Richards isn't kind of far behind.
Yeah.
He was far more than a local artist. And for him to do that with a production of Under Milk Wood, that was early 60s, that's but 10 years barely after Dylan died then.
Right. Yeah.
But it took that time maybe to distance from Dylan the man and all the myths and fables
Oh, yes.
until you could get to work on his words.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So you come centre stage, and you have performed in, I don't know how many, I'm not sure you do, productions of works related to Dylan.
Well, yes, no.
When did you start?
Oh, God. Well, I'm giving my age away now. I first started in Under Wood, obviously, and I could play 17-year-old My Rose Cottage Never Been Kissed. Then I gravitated to Gossamer Bynum, high-heeled out of school with sexual repressions. Then I could work my way up to Polly Garter, because I could sing. Then I got to the grisly Mrs. Pugh and Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, but I have yet to do Mary Ann Sailors, 84 years pregnant. I thought I worked my way up through the age groups of all the women.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's been great fun, absolutely great fun.
What is it about performing Dylan's work? Under Milk Wood, you mentioned there specifically. You can't disassociate yourself from your connections with Dylan the theatre. But what is it about performing his work and working with the words and the text that you, as an actor, obviously enjoyed?
Oh, it's wonderful. We've virtually done it every single year, obviously except for closure of COVID. Could I think of another play that I would wish to be in or direct every single year for the last 35 years? Could you do the same Shakespeare every single year? I don't care how good the author or the playwright is. Would you do that show every single year? But we will do Under Milk Wood every year because it is absolutely magical.
Yeah.
It gives a great base for a new director. It is a play for voices, and you can do it in black, in a semicircle, just do the words. But it does give you a little bit of scope to put a little bit of visual addition, not hide the words or do anything stupid to overshadow the words, but just to augment the words, use the right music, just get the right atmosphere. And it has been an absolute joy. And I may say, from a treasurer's point of view, it has been an absolute plum of a play for the theatre to do.
Yeah.
And I can't see us stopping anytime soon.
It's good box office as well.
It's good box office, but it is such a privilege. It's different. The members move on. You know, as I say, I've done it for quite a few years. But the members move on and we get new people and they bring a new dimension. They do it a different way. I thought, I've never seen a terrorist like that. That's really good. And new people bring a new perspective, but the words, the alliteration is absolutely, it's just magical to listen to. It just washes over you.
Yeah.
And I can't think of another play, I'm truly saying, I cannot think of another play that I would do every single year for 35 years.
That's so good. And that's either as an actor or a director or both.
Both.
Yeah. So what is it? I mean, let's look at that a bit more. I mean, is it the kind of people that he creates that you can identify with, and you can say, well, oh yeah, that's so and so, or that's like so and so who lives down the road, or whatever, or is it the turn of phrase, the color of saying? What is it? Because there are lots of characters. Is it the 24 hours in the life of a village that you can identify with? It's been called the world's first soap opera. And by sheer coincidence, because it happened long before the TV series came out, the main road is called Coronation Street, which is kind of a nice little quirky twist. I mean, what I mean, I'm not sure it exactly fits the description of soap opera, but there are elements of soap opera in it.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you identify with? Is it the characters? Is it the storytelling of 24 hours in the life of a village? Where does it get you?
It's a little bit of both. It is wonderful writing, and the alliteration is superb. You know, slow, black, crow, black, fishing boat, bobbing sea. The alliteration is wonderful, but there's a lot of Dylan in these characters. I don't think that, Dylan had to be a believer to write the beautiful Eli Jenkins prayer, you know. There is saying that the character of Lord Cutglass, who was a bit out there, he's mad, you know. It's a World War One soldier with shell shock. And it's people, I mean, his depth of character, of understanding, besides the alliteration. I mean, some of the stories now, you know, where the change hands on wires, it's a little bit of a soundbite. The further we do it, the further back in history it goes. Modern kids are going to say, what's humming on wires? What's that mean? You know, where the change hands on wires in Mark Edwards' shop. It's a soundbite from history in a lot of cases. But besides the words, they are beautiful. But I think he's put himself in these characters. You know, people that he's met. And I believe there's a touch of Dylan in all those characters. Captain Cat. It's a lost love.
I love the idea that the guy who is leading the listener, who is the storyteller, is a person who can't see. I mean, I think that's a fantastic device. And he goes, oh, there goes so and so, there goes so and so. But he knows because he can't see, but he knows because that's what they always do. And that's the same pattern of life that they have. And it doesn't matter if he can't see, he knows they're going there because they did it yesterday.
That's right.
But that's fab. And Lord Cutglass for me is my favourite character. Well, it's hard to choose. Because I just love the idea that he's got 66 clocks in his shop and they're all telling a different time. That is just
because they will not catch him napping.
Yeah, that's just a magical idea. And I might probably take it too far that 66 clocks kind of resonates with 66 books in the Bible as well. I'm not sure if that is an actual point, but it's one I like to think of. No, I said all that. I can't remember where we're going.
But I would like to say
carry on.
But Dylan also, you know, puts the opposite point. You've got at the very beginning, and we've always done it, the guidebook. Some people cut out the guidebook, but I think it's very important. But I do make the guidebook very supercilious Englishman. You know, this backwater, you know, and the churchyard is no architectural interest whatsoever. And you think, oh, what did he press in place? But the rest of the characters that Dylan has done, Captain Cat, they all love each other. They're all there for each other, you know. And I like that little antithesis. They're the opposite. So they talk about it, and then they show you the characters and say, no, it's not like that at all. You know, we're all here, and they talk about each other, and
So have you performed any other works?
Yes. Of
Dylan's.
Of Dylan. Oh yeah, we've done Return Journey, Peaches, Extraordinary Little Cough. What's the other one? I think the only one we haven't done, which I want to do next year sometime anyway, is Adventures in the Skin Trade.
Oh wow.
That's a little bit, you know, more London, a bit more adult. But we've done Visit to Grandpa's, The Outing, Return Journey. The thing is, we've done them more than one time, and I can't remember what year we did them on what.
But you have done the other works as well.
Yeah.
So what do some of those other works bring that Under Milk Wood kind of doesn't? Do they bring something different, or is it more of the same but in a different form? Because they're not written in the same way, are they?
No, they're not.
They're not.
No,
They're not.
no.
A play for voices
No.
is a play
They
for
are written,
voices.
yeah, they're written
Those
as a
are
play,
stories.
yeah, they're stories. They're stories that we adapted.
Yeah.
So it's just the performance level will be different. But it's still an appreciation of the words, because the outing still makes people laugh now, you know.
Yeah.
I've left my teeth on the mantelpiece. You know, everybody realizes there are people like that, but we perform them, and it's very difficult. We've been very good to be able to turn the stories into a movable drama.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I don't want to hear about the outing after their outing today.
Yeah.
We won't mention the outing. Okay, moving on.
Howling at the moon.
Moving on. And that leads me on nicely to the work that you have in your little yellow handbag. It's very appropriate. You might expect that, you know, that we were going to bring Under Milkwood or a character from Under Milkwood this evening, but I think it's more appropriate that Dreena does part of a one-person performance, which is based about somebody who lived in this house, and it's not Dylan, it's not Nancy, and it's not his dad. It's Florrie, and Florrie gets very little attention, very little public attention, at least, unless you want to delve into some of the biographies and the critical books, etc. But there's a piece here now. Yeah. It's a short monologue. It's fair to say, yeah. And it's to do with Florrie, and it's very appropriate that we hear this, where Florrie lived for 23 years.
I used to read to him when he was ill in bed, and when Daddy came home from the grammar school, he'd read to Dylan. I used to say, "Oh, Daddy, don't read Shakespeare to a child only 4 years old." And he would say, "He'll understand it." So he was brought up on Shakespeare. Went to school when he was about 7. I used to send him off each morning with a thick jersey and plenty of underclothes to keep the chills out. He was very naughty, but people loved him. One day, 2 little girls were in the lane behind the school. They were amazed and delighted when Dylan did something rude. I wouldn't have told his father, but he was shouting, "Look, I can write 'God Save the King,' and peeing all over the wall." Pretty boy with a mop of curls. Oh, and I spoilt him. If I had my time over again, I'd do the same. Do you know I was taking the tops off his boiled eggs when he was 17? I used to give him plenty of notepaper and pencils, and he would sit in his bedroom and write and write and write. He started with poems. It was poems. Always poems.
I'll open it up to the floor to be very formal. Anybody want to ask anything in another way?
Can you tell us where in Mumbles the Lighthouse Theatre, theatre was? Where was it?
It wasn't a theatre. It was a church hall in Southend. You go through Mumbles, and it's pretty near where, between Mumbles and the lifeboat station. It was just a little church hall there. Many years they couldn't afford it, so they performed wherever they could around the town. You know, mainly in Gabriel's Church Hall, Stewart Church Hall, all these different places. It wasn't until 1979 that the council gave us the building that is now currently the Dylan Thomas Theatre. If you were down there, you see Dylan's statue outside. That wasn't there, it was up here. But when we developed the building and named it the Dylan Thomas Theatre, they called it the Dylan Thomas Square, and then they brought the statue down. So it did good business for us to do it. He was very naughty. He used to go into the Mermaid I miss the rehearsals.
Yeah.
But was he always up to the performance when it came to it?
Oh, yes, that was the annoying thing.
I know, I could just
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, I've known quite a few people like that. They don't turn up at rehearsal, they read the script up until the dress rehearsal, and then on the opening night, the scripts are gone, and you know. It wasn't with the, but he was very naughty, it wasn't with the Little Theatre, but we had a lady that I worked for called Evelyn Berman Jones, and she knew Dylan as well, and was doing a play with Dylan and Nancy, and they were doing the Scottish play. And Dylan actually put a real stink bomb in the cauldron and ruined the, ruined the witch's scene. That type of thing. So, yeah. But I think he was just a born genius, you know.
And did he ever turn up to performance drunk? For a live performance drunk?
Yes, yes. But he could carry it off. He carried it off.
Incredible.
Because don't forget, it was, Alan said at the beginning, he was only with the Little Theatre 2.5, 3 years, and he'd gone to London at 19. So he wasn't quite the drunkard that he did become. He was, he enjoyed a drink, but he was able to cope at that age. Yeah.
How good was Nancy as an actress? Sorry.
Mediocre. She never did a big starring role, but she liked it. It was part of the social life.
But the irony there is that Nancy wanted to be an actress.
Yeah.
And it was very much a case of DJ Thomas, don't put my daughter on the stage. And whereas he was happy to encourage Dylan to lead this very insecure life of being a poet, he was active in stopping Nancy being an actress.
Oh, yeah.
So he probably did everyone a favour then, did he?
Well, she didn't have the chance with us, but I mean, she might have been, but no big roles for her in the theatre. I mean, it's just been the plays that they did, you know.
Yeah.
But it was a different time. But this was part of the social life. You couldn't go out to dances. You didn't go to music halls if you were decent. You could go to chapel. What else do you do? And this was the start of an acceptable, you know, decent outlook that you could do. You could get the bus to Mumbles, and they were doing a Shakespeare or a decent play or a classic, The Rivals, etc. You know.
Dylan was in the hay fever, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Hay fever, yeah.
I've got a story about that, but it doesn't involve Dylan.
Don't let the facts spoil a good story.
We did a resurrection of hay fever, and I was playing Judith Bliss, and my own son was playing my son in it, Simon Bliss, which was the Dylan part. And we had a visiting American who was only in Swansea for 3 months on the connection to the theatre. And he said he'd be on the book, on the prompt while we were doing rehearsals. So we come to this scene, and in the scene, Simon Bliss has to shake his mother and say, you know, for goodness sake, mother, wake up with it. Well, my son did it a little too vigorously. So I'm going, for hell's sake, what are you doing? You've just shaken my flipping neck off. This chap is looking for the script. He's looking for the lines. I'm going, sorry, it's our real son. She doesn't mean it. Go back to script. Things like this happen, don't they? You know?
Absolutely.
Nothing to do with Dylan. Sorry, we're getting off the point here.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, Mark.
Thank you. I've been really, so many interesting things that you said. I loved it when you were talking about the alliteration and also the sibilance in the work as well. What do you feel that voice is really important in terms of Dylan's work, in terms of its identity?
I think from the alliteration is part of Dylan's signature, if you like. We don't have as much of it in the other stories that are, you know, as you say, Return Journey. That's a different kind of writing, just as poignant. Return Journey to people in Swansea is magical. It's magic because it's our town. It's our town. Yeah. I mean, even at my great age, I can remember the places Dylan was talking about, the Blitzed. I wasn't born, but I knew the places. I knew these shops. you know. And the alliteration is part, I think, of his signature. I don't think there's anyone.
So is the way he used his voice
Oh, yes.
in keeping with the way that the characters would have been projecting themselves in your productions, but in the Little Theatre productions? Did it stand out from the other characters, or was his voice in keeping with the other characters? I wonder.
I think
you might not know, but
yeah. Dylan's voice is in first and second voices, because that's where the alliteration is. It's not in the characters, they're doing conversation, you know.
yeah.
Wonderful, you know. You know, I've throttled you parakeet. I put cheese in the mouse holes. You know, that's not alliteration, that's the characters talk. But the alliteration is in first voices.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the welfare hall in Widow's Weeds. It paints a story. That's the magic of Dylan.
Yeah,
I think that's why I could do it year after year after year. It's such a magical.
And that lends itself naturally for you to give an opportunity to say when you are performing the Llareggub next. I wonder if it's next week.
It is. Yes, yeah. Yes, we are performing because it's this October-November period, incorporating his birth and death. We are presenting Under Milkwood next Wednesday to next Saturday at the Dylan Thomas Theatre. So, well, thank you, Alan, very much for the plug.
Pleasure. And if you're able to access that at all, then obviously it'd be great if you could. So there we go. Bring it to a close unless there's any other, unless there are any other questions, observations, comments. That's great. Thank you, Dreena.
Thank you.